Itadori vs Choso is one of the best written fights in Jujutsu Kaisen, and I think that's because they're two sides of the same coin, two individuals blending the boundary between human and curses in a complex Jujutsu world. Blood manipulation is a significant element of Choso's identity, and as an amalgamation of curse and human with no real purpose in life, Choso could only rely on the one constant in his life, and that was his relationship with his brothers, literally weaponizing his flesh and blood, bonds that kept him and his brothers connected. In Itadori's case, he's fighting to survive while grappling with the weight of the deaths he's caused, battling so they weren't in vain. For Itadori, winning is everything because he's fighting for everyone else, resolving to be the stepping stone that will allow his friends to save Gojo. But resolve is meaningless without the power to back it, and in this battle, Itadori isn't the hero. He doesn't defeat Choso, he fails. In the end, his sacrifice was just that, a sacrifice. Instead of overcoming the adversity, he was conquered by it. Sukuna's revival in Shibuya is one of the most sinister moments in Jujutsu Kaisen, because everyone has their various objectives and expectations for the King of Curses. The two girls want him to eliminate the fake ghetto, and Jogo and the other curses want him to join their side. But Sukuna just couldn't care less about any of it. It's actually laughable, and upon his return, he rips Jogo's hand from his arm with his overwhelming evil presence. It's an aura that literally forces those beneath him to bow in his presence. He's like a king in his courtroom, looking down on everyone like they're his jesters. The two girls plead with Sukuna for their favor, and he answers their prayers with unyielding brutality, because no one can order him around. Sukuna only lives for himself. Meanwhile, Jogo and the other curses masterminded this entire scheme to fully revive him, and he just says it isn't necessary because he has his own plans. But he still chooses to entertain Jogo, saying that if he can land a hit on him, he'll join their ranks. It's all just a game to him. This is how you write a pure evil anime villain. I think one of the biggest misconceptions in Jujutsu Kaisen was ever believing that Jogo was ever considered remotely weak. And that's because he's the first major disaster curse we encounter in the series, and Gojo pretty much treated him like a piñata on his birthday. He even brought Yuji for a front row screening of the fight instead of watching movies, and honestly, it's a pretty base training lesson. Afterwards, Jogo was pushed to the wayside, and all we see are the other disaster curses fight in action, like Mahito, Hanami, and then later Dagon in Shibuya, who 3v1 Nanami, Maki, and Nobito before Toji turned him into sashimi, so our perspective of Jogo's power level is distorted beyond belief. But when he finally shows up, Nanami says that Jogo is on a completely different level, proceeding to eviscerate everyone in a matter of seconds before we even have a chance to realize what the hell just happened. In reality, Jogo was never weak, he's just a victim of the plot, with Akutami writing him into a corner of having to go up against the two strongest sorcerers in the story. In Jujutsu Kaisen, Jogo vs Sukuna highlighted the indescribable power difference that Sukuna has at his disposal. Jogo pulled out every trick in the book, turning Shibuya into a battlefield of fire and lava, and Sukuna danced around him, enjoying every minute detail of the battle until its last breath, without earning a single scratch on his entire body. Before passing on, Jogo reveals to Sukuna that he always wanted to become human, and while Sukuna understands his sentiment, he critiques Jogo, stating that comparing himself to others just stunts his strength. And in order to reach heights like him and Gojo, you must burn everything in your path and hunger for greatness. But then Sukuna shocks us with a moment of selflessness. He applauds Jogo for his power, stating that he had fun, and telling him to stand proud because he's strong. In the void of darkness that is Sukuna, there is a drop of humanity. He understands how to honor strength, respecting his opponents by pushing them to fight even harder, and that's more than I can say about Gojo, who, driven by his ego and god complex, called Jogo weak. In Jujutsu Kaisen, Toji vs Megumi was a really interesting interaction because after Toji eviscerated Dagon, he goes straight for Megumi and basically saves him from Jogo. Now, Toji is running on pure battle instinct, but I think somewhere in his subconscious, he always knew he was confronting his son, which is why he took such an extreme course of action. And in this battle, he's really giving Megumi a hard time, but it's almost like he's testing him. If he's the son of Toji Fushiguro, then he can handle the heat. But finally, when he gets a good look at Megumi's face and this realization hits him like a one punch from Saitama, he asks Megumi what's his name, and the amount of satisfaction and pride he gets when Megumi responds with Fushiguro and not Zenin was unmatched, which is why in that moment he chooses to off himself. The truth is, Toji deeply loved his family, and perhaps every action he took as a father was in some distorted way his own method to letting Megumi have a proper upbringing. The tragic thing for Megumi is that he will never know he met and fought his father. In Jujutsu Kaisen, almost every time Megumi faces a seemingly unbeatable opponent, he always relies on on his trump card for assistance, which isn't Mahoraga. The strongest Shikigami that he has at his disposal is undeniably Shadow the Hedgehog, but in a more realistic context, it makes logical sense why Megumi would resort to using Maho, because it's the most powerful weapon he has at his disposal. But with that being said, you could argue that he's contemplating the loser's logic. By having this mindset where you can rely on such a powerful weapon, he's actually negating his potential for strength because for all intents and purposes, Mahoraga is a crutch. And a fatal flaw within Megumi's character is that when the going gets tough, he always relies on this borrowed power. But that's actually why I like his mindset in Shibuya a lot, because he broke past this barrier. Because it's only when Megumi is convinced he's on death's door and he has nothing else to lose does he decide to bust out Maho. He doesn't care about the consequences, he doesn't care about the other citizens in Shibuya, it's just that when he's facing his opponent, he wants to give him a taste of hell and suffer in the most brutal way possible. In Jujutsu Kaisen, Sukuna vs Mahoraga is undeniably the most bone-chilling battle in the entire series, because it's like we are witnessing a catastrophic natural disaster unfold and envelop Shibuya, while everyone is simply helpless to accept their circumstances. Both Sukuna and Mahoraga share a single objective in this battle, and it's nothing but destruction. Innocent lives are lost, buildings ripped and demolished, while Sukuna has the time of his life in the middle of the chaos. And it's crazy how at this point in time, Sukuna was already playing the long game with Megumi and Maho, learning how its adaptation works so he could inevitably defeat this greatest obstacle in the future. And Itadori, a prisoner of his own body, bore witness to everything and he could do nothing. It's tragically ironic because Itadori is the one who is supposed to die, but he never dies and fails to protect anyone. And when he sees the destroyed battleground of Shibuya, he just accepts the burden that Sukuna forced on him of becoming a colossal mass unaliver.